Hi, good morning, everyone. So, we're at the second part of our lecture when it comes to understanding the full accounting process or the full recording process. And for today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into what we call adjusting the account. So, specifically, we're going to be understanding specialized journalist entry for our accruals and deferrals. So, taking a look in terms of like our overall progress in terms of the recording process. So, 2 weeks ago, we started with our level one analysis. So, this would be our transaction analysis roadmap. So, we started off with coming up with our advanced transaction analysis. And then from there, generating our reports. So, our income statement, our changes in equity, and our balance sheet. Last week, we went up another level to level two, which would be our recording process roadmap. So basically, based from the supplementary recording, the expectation is you have fully mastered coming up with journal entries, fully understand how T accounts work. So basically, summarizing it on a per account level, and then also utilizing now a trial balance. So basically, knowing that the trial balance at the end of the day is all about ensuring that you have your proper debits, you have your proper credits, and that it upholds one truth in that all debits are equal to all credits. And then from there, we generate our reports, our income statement, our changes in equity, and our balance sheet. So for today, we're even gonna take it to another higher level, which is basically our level three when it comes to creating our analysis for the recording process. So the first three steps would be the same. We will still journalize, we will still post to our T accounts, and we will still have our trial balance. But the focus of today's lecture would be the next two steps, which would be coming up with what we call our adjusting entries after we're done at that creating our trial balance. And of course, since we have new entries, we will now adjust the trial balance coming in from its unadjusted form. And this adjusted trial balance will now be the foundation of our income statement, our changes in equity, and our balance sheet. And therefore, what we're going to be talking about today. Hey Siri, turn off all alarms. And so, that's what we're going to be talking about today, which is basically adjusting our accounts, specifically in terms of what we call our accruals and our deferrals. So in terms of the overview of just understanding accruals and deferrals, these would be our major steps. So first is we're gonna be understanding the last of the assumptions, which would be the time period assumption in terms of accounting. Second is that we will just distinguish between cash basis versus accrual basis, which would also be one of the reasons why we do create our adjusting entries. And then from there, we're going to take a deep dive in terms of upholding what we call the matching principle for revenues and expenses. And then finally, knowing how to actually create our adjusting entries for our prepayments and our accruals. And then finally, it's just how it will affect our financial statements. So first would be our time period assumption deep dive. So like what we've mentioned, there are four building blocks in terms of financial accounting measurement, and one of them would be the time period. So the major idea here is that in terms of the company's recording, they're actually maintained and reported for specific periods of time. And the idea is that it reports your progress or your financial performance and your position for these periods. And the idea is that the way you account should be consistent year on year, month on month, across all of these time periods. So what does this mean? Basically, in terms of how to easily visualize this, the major idea is that because of the going concern assumption, the idea is that if this was a company, its economic life of the business is expected to extend to perpetuity, right? So again, there would be no assumptions that it will go bankrupt soon. But because it happens in perpetuity, or basically it continues for a long period of time, we have to then segment it into artificial time periods so that it would be easier to compare them across historical performance and across different companies. So therefore, this long period is broken down into different artificial time periods. So period 1, period 2, period 3. And the idea here is that every period we create our financial statements. So period 1 will have our financial statements. So income statement and changes in equity will report your performance across the period for the month or for the year during that period. And the balance sheet will report what would be your position at the end of that particular period. Same with period 2, same with period 3. Now notice that I say, or the thing that we're putting in this slide is that it's broken down into artificial time periods. We're not explicitly saying that it's broken down per year. And the reason why is because there are numerous ways that companies treat a time period. So some companies, or a lot, follow what we call the calendar year, meaning they start their financial statement analysis from January and then ends it on December. Other companies actually have fiscal years. So what's the difference between calendar year and fiscal year? Well, both of them run for a 12-month period. The difference is that calendar year starts always in January, but the fiscal can start any month. So some companies start September, some companies start April. So for example, for 2024, companies that run calendar year will be from January 2024 to December 2024. However, for those that have fiscal year, some will start April 2024 and end April 2025. So basically, that's the difference. And then finally, the last would be interim period. So there are some companies that operate or basically create their time periods less than 12 months. So some can have like from October to December only. So the next question would be, how do we account for transactions that have effects across different periods? Meaning, what if there was something that happened in period 1 that also crosses over the effect for period 2? And to answer this question, the next thing that we have to know is that there are two ways to distinguish between cash basis versus what we call accrual basis, right? So, what would be the difference? Cash basis are, as the name suggests, are transactions that are recorded only when cash is received or paid. So basically, it's very cash centric. Again, cash basis accounting, you only record transactions when a cash is received or paid. Versus accrual basis of accounting, wherein transactions are recorded based on when the revenue or the expense has occurred. Okay? So, I know it's kind of hard to imagine. So, let's go back to our second case study, right? So, Cherry's Trinket Consulting. So, it's the same journal entries, but now we will distinguish what would be the difference if it was recorded under cash basis accounting and accrual base. So, again, how I would do this or how I'd go about this is that I will look per transaction. The next thing I'll ask would be, does it affect the cash account? If it affects the cash account, we will record in cash basis. If it doesn't affect the cash account, we don't record it under cash basis. In contrast, in accrual basis, as long as anything has occurred, we will record during that time. So for example, for June 1, Cherise invests 4,400 cash in the business. So obviously, cash is involved. So we will record cash basis at debit cash 4,400, credit owner's capital. Same with our accrual basis. So far, it's the same. But in June 2, when we purchased equipment for 990, the difference is that we didn't purchase via cash. We actually took a payable, right? And therefore, under cash basis, there would be no entry because there is no cash paid or received. However, when we account for under accrual basis, there is something that we will record because the presence of the liability has occurred. So therefore, it would be debit equipment 990, credit accounts payable. June 3, 880 cash is paid. So of course, we will have debit rent expense, credit cash for 880. Same with our accrual basis. For June 12, we have work. So we have service revenue, However, we haven't been paid in cash. So therefore, under cash basis, we're not gonna be recording. However, since a revenue has occurred, we will now record under accrual basis debit accounts receivable, credit service revenue for 930. And lastly, when we finally receive something from partial work, we will have 450 cash credit service revenue. And here, we will have cash service revenue. So again, looking at this, the major difference would be under cash basis, we do not record transactions that does not affect us in terms of cash. So therefore, for you to record, cash must be received or paid. Versus accrual basis accounting, wherein we will record every time there is an occurrence of the event, regardless of whether it will affect cash or not. Now, the implication or the effects go deeper. So when we create our trial balance for these two accounts, notice that there's a huge discrepancy. For cash basis, the total's 4,650, while in Cherry's Trinket, the difference would be 6,320. So basically, a lot of things become understated when you use cash basis, or there's a lot of things that we do not report upon because we're only recording on cash basis. So what would be the net idea? There are two things I need you to take away from this. Number one would be there are two ways to account for things: cash basis and accrual basis, right? And under cash basis, a lot of things go unrecorded, right? So the major takeaway here is that from this point onward, all of the things that we're going to be discussing would actually be following the principles under accrual basis. So everything that we're going to be discussing in accounting 1 will be under accrual basis. And the major reason why accrual yung susundan natin is because of this thing called the matching principle. So again, for the third time, we're gonna be following accrual basis accounting. Accrual basis accounting. The reason why is because we're gonna be focusing in what we call the matching principle, right? So basically, the matching principle talks about when do you recognize revenue and where do you recognize expense. So for revenue, when you recognize revenue, it's only when there is an increase in future economic benefits has occurred. So there are 5 criteria usually, but generally, what we really want is that there is an increase in future economic benefit. So these are just good to know. So you identify the contract, there is an obligation, there's a price that has been agreed upon, and then we allocate that price based on the obligation that we have to satisfy, and then we recognize revenue when the obligation is satisfied. But generally, for accounting 1, all I want you to know is that we recognize revenue when there is a point wherein we can get increase in future economic benefits as occurred. On the other hand, expense recognition, when do we recognize expense? It's only when there is a decrease in future economic benefits. And this is where matching principle comes in. So the matching principle states that expenses should be recognized in the same period a relevant revenue is recognized. Again, we only match expenses in the same period a relevant revenue is recognized. So what does this mean? Right? So I feel like it's best if we actually look at an illustration just so that we have a clear understanding on how everything works. So first would be, let's look at this problem. So let's say you are a car manufacturer, right? And you create this Geely Coolray. In order for you to create this car, there are costs related to making this particular car. So bibili ka ng tires, bibili ka ng engine, bibili ka ng different car parts. And let's say in total, Geely has spent 800,000 to be able to create this car. So there, definitely, since gusto nila magkaroon ng profit, even though they spent 800,000, gusto nila they have profit. So they will sell this for 1.2 million. The matching principle states that we will not consider this 800,000 as an expense until we recognize the revenue from 1,200. So kung hindi pa natin nabebenta, this 800,000 cannot be categorized as an expense. So, for example, In 2021, the car was not sold. Therefore, there is no revenue. And since there is no revenue, under the matching principle, we will not recognize an expense. Instead, this 800,000 will be considered as what? As a asset, as an asset for 800,000. It's only when in 2022 when the car was finally sold. So now we will recognize a revenue. So we have 1,200 revenue. That is the only time wherein we will treat this as an expense. So basically, from being an asset, we will create a journal entry to turn this asset into an expense in order to uphold our matching principle. So again, you only match the expenses when the revenue has occurred. And the reason why we're bringing this up now would be that this is exactly what we need to uphold during our accrual basis accounting. That revenues should properly be recognized and expenses should properly be recognized. And because of that, there will be times wherein from an asset, we will then recognize it an expense slowly, or from a liability, we're gonna be also transferring it depending in terms of the case-to-case basis. And this is where we're going to be talking about the main topic for today's lecture, which would be the adjusting entries, right? So what are adjusting entries? So one of the things that I want you to really understand is that adjusting entries are required. So they are required every time a company prepares a financial statement. And like what I've mentioned before, the reason why they are required is because they uphold or ensure that the revenue and expense recognition principles are followed. And if you ask me, when do adjusting entries happen? It is usually made on the last day of an accounting period. So for example, if you're following calendar year, it would be on December 31, 2022. So the next question would be, but wait, sir, we already have a trial balance, like based on like high rule services from your problem set. Why do we need adjusting entries on the last day of the accounting period? And the answer would be that the trial balance may not contain up-to-date information. So for example, there are some cases wherein some events are not recorded daily, meaning that, turning it from asset to expense is not recorded daily. So it's too timing consuming or even costly. So for example, the classic account would be prepaid rent. Like what you've mentioned, at the start of your rent period, it's an asset. And then every day that you go through it, technically some portion of that asset turns into expense. Now, it would be hassle if every day you will recognize, so for example, you have a rent for 30 pesos. So at the start, it's 30 pesos asset, right? On day one, if you divide it by 30, 29 remains an asset, 1 peso becomes expense. Day two, 28 will be asset, 2 will be an expense. So again, it's very costly. So it would be better that in day one, it's 30, the asset. In day 30, we will adjust the 30 to become 0 and make it an expense. So some events are not recorded daily, so it's too time consuming or even costly. Next, some events are not journalized during the period. So some are expire with the passage of time versus daily transaction. So we'll talk about equipments and how it depreciates. And finally, some items may be unrecorded at the end of the period. Right? So these are just the three things that will cause a trial balance to not contain up-to-date information. And just so that it would be easier for you, we actually broke it down into two major categories. First would be our deferrals, or what I would like to personally call prepayments. And we have our accruals, our incurrences. So let's look at deferrals. So in looking at adjusting entries, there is a time period effect. And because there's a time period effect, there are two instances I want you to focus on. What happens at the start of the period and what happens at the end of the period. Not that I will now call now and later. In deferrals, what happens usually is that there's a prepayment. So now what will happen is that you will receive cash at the start of the period, but it's only at the end or at the period wherein you will recognize the revenue. And when you pay cash at the start of the period, you will only recognize the expense at the end of the period. So you follow cash. So if it's cash now, these are deferrals or prepayments. But if it's cash later, these are accruals. So cash now, deferrals or prepayments. Cash later, accruals or incurrences. Wherein, baliktad. For accruals, you recognize the revenue now at the start of that particular transaction, but it's only later when you'll receive the cash. And then, same with expenses. You will recognize the expense, and then the payment will come after. So again, cash now are deferrals, cash later are accruals. So I know it's kind of hard to understand, but this is the thing that I need you to perfect over the weekend in preparation for our quiz, right? So let's now go to a very comprehensive case study called Buddy Consulting. So unlike before, unlike other previous case studies, I won't start with you asking you to create the journal entries already. Instead, we're gonna start with the trial balance with the debits of 24,150 and 24,150. So the assumption here is that you are able to correctly create the journal entries. You're able to correctly post to the accounts, and it enabled you to come up with this correct unadjusted trial balance as of March 31, 2020. Now, our point of view is that today is the last day of your accounting period. And for adjusting entries, there are three things that we need to do. First is we need to record adjusting entries for deferrals. Second would be to record adjusting entries for accruals. And then finally, to adjust the trial balance. So now let's proceed with the first part, which would be deferrals or our prepayments or our cash now. So the idea is, in deferrals, cash is received or paid first prior to earning the revenue or incurring the expense. So we have what we call our prepaid expenses. So these are for instances wherein we pay cash at the start and only later when we recognize the expense. And we have what we call our unearned revenue, wherein we receive the cash, but then we only recognize the revenue at a later date. So when I ask you, what are the two types of deferrals? You will tell me prepaid expenses and unearned revenue are deferrals. So again, prepaid expenses and unearned revenue. So now let's analyze. So in prepaid expenses, what usually happens would be you will pay cash. So there's a credit cash, but instead of recognize it immediately as an expense, you will at first record it as an asset. So for example, for rent, in terms of like our previous examples, if at the start of the month you paid the rent, it would be prepaid rent, which is an asset, credit cash, right? So no expense has yet been recorded. Now let's fast forward to the end of the period. So at the end of the period, let's say in terms of rent, meron kang portion of the rent that have become an expense, right? So hindi siya purely asset na. And therefore, if we do not adjust, some of your assets will be overstated and some of your expenses will be understated. Specifically, your prepaid rent will be overstated and your rent expense will be understated. And therefore, our adjusting entry, which we will learn today, is we will recognize an expense, debit, and credit the asset. So this is the first adjusting entry for your prepaid expenses. In the same vein, for unearned revenue, rather than recognizing a revenue, we will first recognize a liability. So we receive the cash, but then a liability to perform the obligation. And then at the end of the period, we will fulfill some of those obligations. So therefore, at that point in time, we're at the end of the period, some of your liability will be overstated, and your revenues would be understated. And therefore, we need to recognize some portion of the revenue. So the idea here is still the same, right? We pay cash in prepaid expenses, but we don't recognize expense yet. But we only recognize the expense through the help of the adjusting entry. Same with unearned revenue. We get the cash at the start, but we only recognize the revenue at the end. So, to simplify everything, we first take a deep dive into prepaid expenses. So, when you look at prepaid expenses, there are three major subcategories: your supplies, your prepaid rent, and your equipment. So, at this point, if everything's still confusing, don't worry. I feel like the examples would be the one that will be able to help guide your understanding. So, let's look at this example. Under supplies, Podi Consulting purchased office supplies for 950 cash. After the month, the remaining office supplies amounted to $50. So, how do we understand this? In March 1, which is now, like quote unquote now, or at the start of the period, what happens is that there is this three stacks of supplies for $950, let's say. In March 31, it has now gone down to 50, right? So basically, at the start of the period, what we will do is that we will recognize the payment of cash, but the recognition of an asset. So basically, tumaas yung supplies, so debit supplies of 950, credit cash of 950. So this is the initial recording. Naka-reflect na to dun sa trial balance na I showed you earlier. What we need to adjust is that on March 31, we want to adjust na hindi naman na 950 yung supplies. Right now, it's at 50 already. Right? So in March 1, supplies should be 950. Pero in March 31, it should be 50 na lang. So therefore, we need to decrease supplies by 900. In the same way, we need to recognize that since na-consume natin 900 out of this 950, that should be what we call our supplies expense. So in March 1, it's correct that we haven't recorded any expense. Wala pa tayong ginagamit na papel. But by March 31, we know we have consumed $900 worth of supplies expense. And therefore, our adjustment would be, kailangan bumaba si supplies, kailangan tumaas yung expense. And therefore, pag bumaba si supplies, that would be a credit supplies. And dahil tumaas si expense, that would be a debit supplies expense. And therefore, our adjusting entry should be debit supplies expense 900, credit supplies of 900. Right? So again, this is the initial recording that is already reflected in trial balance. But what we have to recognize as adjusting entry on the last day of the accounting period would be a portion of that supplies that becomes an asset. We need to recognize that a portion of that has become an expense. And that is why we need this adjusting entry. So looking at it from another perspective, per record, at the start of the period, you have 950. But when you actually counted at the end of the period, it's 50. So therefore, ang na-use up mo is worth 900. And therefore, at the start, 950 is purely an asset. So you have purely an asset in terms of your supplies. However, because at the end of the period, you've consumed 900 worth, you only have 50 dapat na remaining. So therefore, you make this adjustment. So supplies expense, we debit that to expense. So, and then we credit it to the supplies. And by doing that, we were able to properly reflect the true nature of the value. Na yung supplies mo, 50 na lang talaga. And then your expense is finally recognized at the end of the period. Right? So that is the beauty of the adjusting entry. Next, we now go to prepaid rent. Right? So same idea. At the start, we will recognize an asset. And then during the period, that asset's economic benefits will be partially consumed. So at the end, we need to recognize an expense. So let's look at another example. In March 1, you bought 3,000 pesos worth of prepaid rent for the first 3 months. So the idea is, in March 1, you have 3 months left. Wala ka pang nagagamit na any day for the rental. But at the end of the period, which will be the focus of today, we would have consumed 1 month's worth, right? So initially, everything is simple. Everything is an asset kasi wala pa tayong nakukonsume na rent. So it would be debit prepaid rent, 3,000, credit cash, 3,000. Still an asset. However, at the end of the period, what happens? If 3,000 yung pinay mo for 3 months, then logically, 3,000 divided by 3 is 1,000 per month rent expense. So in March 31, you've actually incurred 1,000 pesos worth of rent. Therefore, so expense, March 31, zero pa, pero after 30 days, you've incurred 1,000 expense. So therefore, tumaas si rent expense ng 1,000. On the other hand, yung asset mo of 3,000, now it should just be 2,000 na lang because hindi na buong 3,000 yung asset mo, 2,000 na lang. So bumaba si prepaid rent. And this would be our guide for our adjusting entry. Our prepaid rent went down, so that would be credit prepaid rent of 1,000. And our expense went up by 1,000. So rent expense, 1,000. Debit. And therefore, our adjusting entry would be debit rent expense, 1,000. Credit prepaid rent of 1,000. Looking at it from another way, what you would usually do would be you look at the rent paid, 3,000, you divide it by 3, and then you look at the monthly expense of 1,000. And then dahil alam mong monthly expense is 1,000, you will recognize debit rent, 1,000, credit prepaid rent of 1,000. So looking at the T accounts, if hindi mo in-adjust, this is what it would look like at the start or at the unadjusted trial balance. The prepaid rent is 3,000 and rent expense is 0. But that's not correct. What we have to do is that a portion of this rent should be transferred to an expense. So because of this adjusting entry, we will have debit rent expense, which is finally making it correct. And then babawasan natin yung prepaid rent ng credit 1,000, which will then make it 2,000 debit prepaid rent and 1,000 rent expense. So yung 3,000 at the start of pure asset, 1,000 of that became expense, which is true. 2,000 remains as an asset. And therefore, it reflects its true value. And then finally, in terms of the last thing that we need to discuss, that would be the equipment depreciation, wherein basically you purchase a computer for 2,400 cash, right? And the computer's estimated useful life would be 5 years, right? So the idea here naman would be that when you buy a computer, there's a lot of use for this, or what we call the useful life. So for this, we have 5 years left when we bought it for March 1. But after a month, the idea is that a portion of that useful life, because sobrang ginamit mo yung laptop or yung equipment, 4 years, 11 months na lang yung life niya in terms of usefulness. So at the start, everything is easy. The 2,400 cash is purely an asset. Debit equipment, credit cash of 2,400. But now, we have to allocate that there's 1 month of expense that's associated to the depreciation of this equipment. So what will happen is that we need to adjust. Like, for example, if the useful life of the computer is 2,400. So first thing is, how many months are there in 5 years? So 5 times 12, 60. So now, our 2,400 equipment, we divide it by 60 to know that every month, we lose $40 worth of value. And therefore, we need to recognize that at March 1, wala ka pang expense. The equipment is pure, pristine. It has been new. But after 1 month of usage, there would be an expense of 40. Nagamit mo na eh for 1 month of $40. So there would be an expense that we need to recognize. Next would be that yung value of the equipment goes down by 40. So now it should be 2,360. So now, our adjusting entry would be debit depreciation expense, credit, not equipment, but accumulated depreciation. So this is the thing that trips people up. So the knee-jerk reaction would be, bakit hindi binawasan si equipment? Bakit? What is this thing called accumulated depreciation? Well, we have a special rule in accounting that equipments should always be recorded based on how much you bought them. And therefore, accounting invented a thing called a contra asset in the form of accumulated depreciation that will record all of the depreciation expense, but will enable you to be able to properly still see how much the equipment was bought. So how it would look like is that equipment will never change. Kung 2,400 to, it will always be 2,400. Ang magbabago is this thing called contra asset account called accumulated depreciation. So as the name suggests, it's under your assets, but it's below your equipment. It will be less accumulated depreciation. So this would be a contra asset. So this is a subtraction. So 2,400 minus 400. Our total assets will reflect the proper value of the equipment at 2,360. But your accumulated depreciation is the one that enables you to do that. And therefore, the normal balance of this new account that we're looking at would be a credit. It is a contra asset account. So if you look at it, the normal account for assets would be debit. But since it's a contra asset account, our normal balance would be a credit. So it would be a credit. So every time there's a credit, it increases. And therefore, our accumulated depreciation is a credit in depreciation. So basically, it's just a complicated way of parang subtracting from the value of the equipment without having to change the value of equipment. So again, to summarize, 2,400 divided by 5 years is that every year it uses 480 of its life. Divided by 12, you'll get 40. And therefore, we will recognize an expense at $40 and credit accumulated depreciation at 40. So before the adjustment, there are a lot of problems. First is that the property, plant, equipment is at 2,400. There has been no depreciation expenses recorded, and there is no accumulated depreciation. But thanks to our adjusting entry, we will now be able to properly record an expense, and we are able to properly record a credit of the accumulated depreciation, which is pag pinagbangga mo yung property, plant, and equipment, and accumulated depreciation will reflect the proper state of 2,360, which is the proper state of the equipment, right? So by now, we've actually finished 3 of the different subcategories of the prepaid expenses, right? So first is our supplies. So this initial recording is already inside the trial balance. So ito lang yung kailangan natin i-adjust for the trial balance. We've done our prepaid rent. So this is the initial recording again. It's already here. Ito yung kailangan natin i-adjust. And then same with our equipment, right? So these are the 3 things that is still not reflected in our trial balance. So with that, we can now proceed to the other type of deferrals, which would be our unearned revenue, right? Unearned revenue. So for unearned revenue, kindly note that in order for us to be able to discuss this, we'll take a break from our case study, meaning we'll look at it from the perspective of the company nagpa-rent sa kanila. So it won't affect their trial balance because we're not talking about Pwede Consulting as a company. But the idea here is that we will discuss unearned rent revenue. Okay? So looking at it, we are at the point of view of the seller, of the renters, right? Or the landlord. So HLC building rented out an office to Pwede Consulting. and receive 3,000 for the first 3 months. So what happens, right? In March 1, may 3 months left for this particular rental. And then rather than March 30, they record at April 30, right? Therefore, 2 months have passed. March, April. So 2 months. So 1 month na lang yung left sa rent. So at the start, we receive what we call our cash account, which is 3,000. But rather than outright recognizing our revenue, we will have this thing called unearned rent revenue. As the name suggests, unearned siya because you haven't been able to deliver any of the service. Wala ka pang rent na napakonsume sa kanya. Therefore, this unearned rent revenue or unearned service revenue or unearned sales revenue, pag merong term na unearned, automatically that's a liability. Okay, this is a liability. Now, the problem is, after 2 months of rent of 1,000, technically, by April 30, you should have earned how much worth of rent? 2 months worth of rent. So our revenue is true na in March 1, yes, we haven't earned any revenue. But since may 1,000 tayong rent na nakita by March 30 and by April 30, another 1,000, we should recognize $2,000 worth of revenue. So kailangan our revenue should increase by 2,000. On the other hand, 3,000 minus 2,000 will be dapat 1,000 na lang yung ending balance ni unearned rent revenue, which is a liability. Therefore, we have unearned rent revenue, which is nag-decrease. So, debit 2,000, credit revenue of rent revenue of 2,000. So, our adjusting entry would be debit unearned rent revenue of 2,000, credit rent revenue of 2,000. So now, how we do this is that we have rent received divided by 3 is 1,000 times 2 months. So we have unearned rent revenue of 2,000, credit revenue. So before adjustments, mali tayo. We thought that 3,000 purely liability. May liability tayo. But that's not true. Instead, what will happen would be what? We will debit unearned rent revenue and we will credit revenue so that it would properly reflect that, okay, we only have 1,000 liability left kasi may 1 month pa sila na left. And in terms of rent revenue, we actually have rent revenue worth 2,000. So at this point, we're finally be able to understand our deferrals. So again, we have our prepaid expenses and our unearned revenue. The idea is the same. At the start of the transaction or the initial recording, we either pay or receive cash. And then at the end, we recognize an expense or recognize a revenue. Right? So that would be the focus of deferrals. Next would be our accruals or our incurrences. So if deferrals was cash now, accruals would be cash later. So I know medyo daunting yung idea of deferrals and accruals, but deferrals would be the hardest. Accruals is a bit more straightforward. Revenue is earned or expenses incurred first prior to the receipt or disbursement of cash. So you only have accrued revenues wherein you recognize the revenue before you receive the cash, or accrued expenses wherein you recognize the expense before you pay the cash. So the great thing about this is that for accruals, there are no initial entries, right? And because wala kang initial entry, and kailangan kang mag-recognize ng revenue, kung wala kang adjusting entry for accruals, your assets will be understated and your revenues will be understated, right? Same with accrued expenses. Your liabilities are understated and expenses are understated if you fail to recognize an accrued expense. And therefore, you will recognize the expense and you will recognize the revenue. So the adjusting entry for accrued revenues would be debit asset, credit revenue, and debit expense, credit liability for expenses. So let's go to the first example, which would be our accrued revenues. At the end of the month, Funny Consulting finished an engagement with XYZ Enterprise amounting to 400, but client has not yet been billed. So what happened? We're at March 31. We already earned the revenue before the period ends. But because we have not yet billed, we'll probably get the cash on April. Now, the knee-jerk reaction would be, maybe we should record it in April. That's wrong. Because that would be following cash basis accounting. We need to recognize the revenue when it occurred. And it occurred March 31, right? Or during that period. And therefore, we need to recognize a revenue. And how do we recognize that revenue? If there's no initial entry, we need to create an entry for it, which would be our revenue should have increased by 400, right? And because wala pa tayong cash na receive, then it would be a receivable of 400. And therefore, our journal entry for this accrued revenue would be debit AR, kasi tumaas si accounts receivable of 400, the credit service revenue of 400. And that is how we're able to recognize the revenue, right? So accrued revenues is just basically knowing that even though you have not yet billed it, if it happened before month end, we need to debit AR, credit service revenue of 400. So basically what will happen will be, if you have service revenue of 10,000 existing, we will add 400 sa receivables, and then our new service revenue should be 10,400, right? So very simple. That is accruals, right? Next would be expenses. So same lang. There are expenses na even though hindi ka pa nagbayad ng cash, you have incurred them, right? Particularly interests and salaries. So let's look at this example. Pwede Consulting borrowed 8,000 payable in a year with an interest rate of 3% per annum. So general rule in accounting, in all of our accounting classes, if you see an interest rate, that's gonna be a per annum rate. Okay? So the idea here is that, let's say you got 8,000, right? At the start of the year. The idea is that you will incur expenses on per month worth 3% divided by 12. So we've incurred an expense, so may interest tayo here. And even though we're gonna pay it next period, we need to recognize it at the end of the period. So how do we get 20? Where did we get 20? Right? It's because 8,000 times 0.03 is that every year, we will have to pay 240 interest expense. Divide mo by 12 per month. So every month, we incur $20 worth of interest expense. So sa March 31, we have to note na, okay, I will recognize an interest expense of 20, right? And then a payable of 20, which is a liability. So our adjusting entry would be debit interest expense, credit interest payable, right? So again, interest payable, interest expense. So basically, your principal is 8,000. You multiply 3%, so you have an annual interest of 240. To get monthly interest, we divided by 12. So your monthly expense would be 20. So debit interest expense, credit interest payable. So we'll have credit interest payable and debit interest expense. So we're able to finally recognize this. And then finally, we have salaries expense. So Pwede Consulting pays 1,000 salaries weekly for a 5-day work week. The end of the month fell on a Wednesday. So what happens? Binabayaran nyo raw sila every day of the week, every Friday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, March 31 is a Wednesday. Technically, 3 out of the 5 work days, may utang ka sa kanila. And then Tuesday, Friday, dito lang sila mababayaran on Friday. Even though we will pay them in cash on Friday, 3 out of the 5 work week expense has already occurred during the month. So we need to record na kailangan may 600 expense. Saan galing si 600? It's because if I work 1,000 for a 5-day work week, you divide it by 5 days, I have a daily rate of 200. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, tatlo yun. So times 3. So utang mo sa kanila is 600 for the 3 days that they worked from March 29 to March 31. So we will now have an increase dapat of a salaries expense of 600 and then a payable of 600. So therefore, debit salaries expense since tumaas of 600, credit salaries payable of 600. So again, how did we solve for it? 1,000 divided by 5 workdays is daily salaries of 200. 200 times 3 is 600. So debit salaries expense, credit salaries payable, 600, 4,400. So 3,800 plus 600. So now we're done. In terms of accrued revenue, we are able to recognize a service revenue that was, even though it's not billed, it has already occurred before the month. We are able to take into account an interest expense that happens monthly. And we were able to account for the 3 out of the 5 days that people have worked, right? So these are your adjusting entries. And with all of those things, we're finally able to master our deferrals and our accruals. So again, deferrals are cash now or prepayments, and accruals are cash later, right? And basically, we need adjusting entries so that we can uphold the revenue recognition principle and the recognition principle. And this brings us to the final thing, which is to create the adjusted trial balance for level 3, right? So today is the last day of the accounting period, right? So we're okay now with recording the adjusting entries for deferrals and accruals. Now all we need to do is to adjust the trial balance. So we have 3 deferral adjusting entries and 3 accrual adjusting entries. And all we have to do is to look at its effects. So basically, itong anim na to, I just summarized it na. Okay, supplies expense plus 900, supplies plus 500. So ganun lang, right? So we'll use this table and then we'll adjust. So first, supplies expense, merong additional na 900. So we look at supplies expense. Currently, it's at 0. So now, we'll make this 900. So inadjust natin. Next would be supplies, 900. So we look at supplies. Currently, it's at 950. Okay, what's the problem? The supplies have been credited 900. But the normal balance is debit 950. So again, there's a debit 950, but there's a credit 900. So magbabangga sila. So therefore, 950 debit minus the 900 credit will make this a debit of 50 for the office supplies. So kindly take note. Next, rent expense. Currently, rent expense is 0. So magiging 1,000 to. Prepaid rent. Again, similar with supplies. Let's look at prepaid rent. Currently, there's a debit of 3,000. Now, ano yung effect ng credit of 1,000 sa debit na 3,000? 3,000 debit versus credit of 1,000. So 3,000 minus 1,000, magiging 2,000 na lang to. Next, depreciation expense. 0 siya. So we just add 40. Accumulated depreciation of equipment. Currently, it's 0. But it's 40. So, 2 things to note. Never gumalaw si equipment. Equipment is pristine at 2,400. We now introduce the accumulated depreciation for equipment, which has a normal credit account of 40. So again, that's a special thing to remember for equipment. Next, number 4. AR increased by 400. So AR, debit is 3,000. May debit na 400. So now it becomes 3,400. Service revenue, 400. Credit. So we look at service revenue. Currently, it's 10,000. So 10,000 plus 400 is 10,400. Number 5, interest expense of 20. So we have interest expense. So gagawin natin tong 20. And then finally, interest payable. So 0 siya. Gagawin natin tong 20. Salaries expense. Currently is at 3,800. So debit 38, debit 600. So 38 plus 600. So same direction. 4,400. And then finally, salaries payable of 600. So now, na-adjust na natin si debit and credit. So if you follow the new additions, this will now become 25,210. from 24,150, and the credit will also follow. So now, basically, that is how you adjust your trial balance. And then, using this adjusted trial balance, we will now create our financial statements. So again, these are just the proper headings for the month ending March 31. So we just recognize our revenues, our expenses, and net income. So now our service revenue is now at 10,400. Our expenses have been increased. So may supply salaries na tayo 4,400, 1,000 na yung rent expense, supplies expenses 900, utilities expenses 600, depreciation expenses 40, and interest expenses 20. So now it's 6,960. So now our net income is 3,440. Next, our owner's equity. So our beginning capital is 0. We add the additions. So what are the additions? So owner's capital or investment. So according to here, we have 600, 6,000. And then we have net income or net loss of 3,440. So naging 9,440. Do we have any drawings? Yes, we have 2,000 drawings. So 9,440 minus 2,000, we have an ending capital of 7,440. And then finally, for our financial position, our assets first. So cash, 8,400. Our accounts receivable, naging 3,400. Our office supplies, bumaba to 50. Our prepaid rent, bumaba to 2,000. Our equipment remains pristine at 2,400. However, we're gonna introduce a contra asset account. So that's why naka-negative to at 40. So we have now 16,210. Right? So if you add all of those. For liabilities, we have accounts payable of 150. Right? Salaries payable, meron tayong 600. Interest payable, meron na rin tayong na-recognize at 20. And we have notes payable at 8,000, making it 8,770. And then yung 7,440 came from our changes in owner's equity. So, naging 7,440. So, now we have 16,210. So, at this point, we've actually completed 7 out of the 9 of the whole accounting cycle. We're done with journalizing. We're done with posting. We know how to make an adjusted trial balance. Right now, we just learned how to journalize and post adjusting entries. We know to prepare the adjusted trial balance, and now we have our financial statements. The last step to complete the accounting cycle is what we call closing entries. So if you're watching this from a recording, now's a good time to take a break and actually just perfect our accruals and deferrals. So my number one tip for you would be, by this point of this recording, you should be able to answer all of your problem set 2 exercises. So the last portion that you need to master para alam nyong you've fully graduated from the recording process would be closing entries. So this is easier than accruals and deferrals. But if medyo overwhelmed na kayo, now's the right time to take a break. And then if you're ready, just go with me through the process. Kasi ito talaga, you just have to understand how to close, right? How to close. And there's just 4 journal entries you have to understand and memorize for you to be able to know closing entries. But hindi pwede na you're overwhelmed with accruals and deferrals. So at this point, kindly stop the recording and take a break. But now I will proceed, right? So closing the books. So let's create a walkthrough. So I don't know if you have friends or you have family that works in accounting. And then one of the stressful period would be closing the books, right? Because a lot of things needs to happen. And one of the things is that at the end of the accounting period, one of the things that you have to do is to make sure that the accounts are ready for the next period. And the crucial thing here to remember is that during the closing, we close what we call temporary accounts. When we say close, we zero out temporary accounts. So the natural question would be, what are temporary accounts? So temporary accounts are those that only relate to one given accounting period. It's also called nominal accounts. So again, temporary accounts are what we call your nominal accounts, right? So it relates to only one given accounting period. Versus permanent accounts that are real accounts and they relate to two or more future accounting periods. So what does this mean? Those that only relate to one given accounting period would be your revenues, your expenses, and your owner's drawings. While your permanent accounts na it happens to two or more future accounting periods would be assets, liabilities, and owner's capital. So the idea here is that temporary accounts need to be zeroed out. So revenue should be zeroed out, expenses should be zeroed out, owner's drawings should be zeroed out, while assets, liabilities, and owner's capital should be retained as is. So how do we actually close temporary accounts? The idea lang naman is we transfer our temporary accounts, which is basically your revenues and your expenses, all the way and then ilulubog natin silang lahat kay equity. So owner's drawings, revenues, and expenses, all of those we zero out and we should just reflect to the ending equity. And this sounds hard, but naturally we've been doing this in income statements, changes in equities, and balance sheet. Now, when you really think about it, your revenues and your expenses, 10-4, ang dami mong figures, at the end of the day, that's just net income or net loss. That net income, pinapasok natin sa changes in owner's equity na together with investments and drawings, we determine the ending capital of equity. Right? So basically, our income statement, our revenue and expenses and owner's drawings, all of them are closed out in one line item, which is the owner's capital at 7,440. Right? So basically, the steps in closing the books is we zero out revenues, we zeroed out expenses, we close the net income to owner's capital, we zero out our owner's drawings to owner's capital, and then we determine our ending capital, which is finally a permanent account. So therefore, this is a new set of entries that you need to learn, which would be closing entries. So closing entries are required at the end of the period. So required rin sila. And they close temporary accounts to our ending capital. Right? So basically, we zero out revenues, zero out expenses, and zero out our owner's drawings. So how does it work? Step 1, we close our revenue accounts. So here, looking at our income statement, we have 10,400. How do we close? Right? How do we close? First is, you look at the T accounts, right? So currently, we have a credit of 10,400 and a debit of 6,960 for the expenses. How do we make this zero? How do we make this zero? Right? We introduce the concept of what we call an income summary. So an income summary is just a temporary T account in order for us to be able to close out revenues and expenses to our owner's capital. So please follow the procedure. So this is your normal T account, right? So first step is zero out natin si revenues. So how do we zero out revenues? We create a journal entry that we need to debit revenue, right? Debit revenue. Pero the next question would be, saan natin i-credit? I-credit natin siya through what we call our income summary. So debit revenue, credit income summary. That would be the closing entry. What it allows us to do is that because may 10,400 ka here na debit, 10,400 debit versus 10,400 credit would be a zero na close out natin si revenue. And therefore, we will have a 10,400 income summary to be able to close it. So, closing entry number 1, i-debit mo lahat ng revenue. So, debit service revenue, you credit it to income summary at 10,400. That's closing entry number 1. By doing this closing entry, we're able to close out our revenue. Next would be our expenses. All we have to do is to close out our expense account. So, magkakaroon tayo ng, so, we offset. So, kung may debit dyan, we credit expense, pero we debit income summary. We credit 900, debit income summary. We credit 900, we debit income summary. We credit 600, we debit income summary. We credit 40 expense, we debit income summary. We credit 20, we debit income summary. And what will happen will be, we will have our second journal entry that allows us to close out our expenses. So, zero na yan. So, 6,960 debit versus 619.60 credit will be closed na or zero na yung expense. So, therefore, our closing journal entry 2 would be a debit of income summary of 6,960, and then you just zero out or credit your supplies expense, right? So, at this point, right, you have your subtotals. You have a debit of 6,919.60 and a credit of 10,400. So, at the end, when you close out after the two closing entries, you will have a credit of 3,440. And diba, pag owner's capital, a credit is a good thing, right? So 3,440 is now what represents your income, diba? So thanks to the income summary, we are able to see the income. The next thing is that we need to zero out our income summary and our owner's drawings, right? So that's the last two journal entries that we need to do. So this is your changes in owner's equity. We have our income summary, right? That's here. And then we have our drawings. That's here. So we have our T account for the income summary and our owner's drawings. And all we have to do is zero them out to our owner's capital. So currently we have 6,000 na owner's capital. That's the beginning balance, right? So what we need to do is 3,440, right? We debit income summary and then we credit our owner's capital. And by doing that, masi-zero out si income summary. Debit 3,440, credit 3,440. So now we have debit income summary of 3,400, debit owner's capital of 3,440. And then si drawings, baliktad. We will now do a credit and owner's drawings to zero it out. Pero that would be an accompanying debit to owner's capital. So that masi-zero out si owner's drawings. So now you have debit owner's capital of 2,000, credit owner's drawings of 2,000. And with that, we have our new balances. So 9,440 and 2,000. We will have our 7,440. So we're done with our journal entry 4 and journal entry 3 and 4. So as you can see, the 7,440 owner's capital reflects the true owner's capital at 7,440. So lahat, revenues, expenses, drawings, have all been properly closed to owner's capital. So ito lang yung apat na kailangan nyo i-memorize for closing entries. So closing entry 1, all the revenues will be credited to income summary. All of the expenses will be debited to income summary. So, depende kung net income or net loss. But if it's net income, that would be a credit to owner's capital. So, tumaas yung owner's capital. And then drawings will always be a debit to owner's capital. So, those are the things lang that you need to note. So, summarize. These are your T accounts. First is we close the revenue accounts to income summary and your expenses. Your income salary will be close to owner's capital and your owner's drawings will be close to owner's capital. So, looking at it from this experience, yung revenue na 10.4, ginawa natin siyang credit sa income summary. Yung mga debits ng income summary are your expenses. So, pinag-offset mo sila, nagkaroon ka ng credit na balance for income summary. So, to offset this, may debit ka sa income summary here, but magiging credit siya ng owner's capital. And then yung drawings, may credit ka dito, pero magiging debit siya ng owner's capital. So that it will properly reflect your owner's capital. So these would be your closing entries. And that enables you to be able to close your revenues, expenses, and owner's drawing. So na-zero out yung T accounts for those. But then, na-retain yung assets, liabilities, and yung owner's capital. So at the end, the thing is, we'll also have post-closing trial balance. So today's the last day of the accounting period. Because of your adjusting entries, nagkaroon ka ng adjusted trial balance. But then you'll have your set of closing entries. So you'll now have what you call your post-closing trial balance. Wherein, what you can observe is that naka-zero na lahat ng revenues, expenses, insurance expense, salaries, wages, expense. Wala ka ng expenses and revenues. So our permanent accounts, or real accounts, which are your assets, your liabilities, and your owner's capital, are retained, but your temporary accounts have been zeroed out, right? So close temporary accounts, don't close permanent accounts. And with this recording over, we have finally reached the full accounting cycle. So from level one, transaction analysis roadmap, we now know how to create journal entries, to post to T accounts, to create our unadjusted trial balance. Today, we learned how to do our adjusting entries, to create our adjusted trial balance. And then in level four, we were able to experience the beauty of the full accounting cycle. Na we analyze the business transaction, we're able to journalize the transaction, we're able to post to the ledger or T accounts, we're able to create our unadjusted trial balance, we're able to post the adjusting entries that we were able to do, we were able to adjust the trial balance, we were able to prepare our financial statements, and then finally, we were able to close our accounts, our temporary accounts, and then come up with our post-closing trial balance. And that is our full accounting cycle. And this will happen every period that the economic entity has been going on. And then from post-closing trial balance, we then again look at the analyzing the business transaction. So thank you so much for the patience, for the grit. I hope that we were able to properly segment the accounting cycle for you. But by this time, you could be proud and say that you've learned like a full semester's worth of like basic accounting with just within our limited time together in terms of just discussing this. And then we can finally take a deep dive in terms of all of the accounts, right? So again, it looks very intimidating as a start, but I hope that through the help of your problem sets and through the help of the exercises that we've discussed, balikan nyo lang, and then eventually you'll be able to achieve and get this. So for me, the focus would be I want you to be masters at recording entries. First would be to record simple entries. Second would be to record adjusting entries. And then finally, to record closing entries. That would be the test that we're gonna be doing in for the next quiz. Like, it's just gonna be purely journal entries. How do you record simple journal entries? How do you record adjusting entries? And then, how do you record closing entries? That would be the focus of our challenge for our quiz and our problem sets for the next few days. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.